When someone doubts Kendrick Lamar's lyrical ability, play them this song.
It was always me versus the world, until I found it's me versus me.
What a line.
Why?
Just remember, what happens on Earth stays on Earth. We're gonna put it in reverse.
And then the switch up. Production still goes crazy on this, man. You know you have a timeless classic when you look back on it years later, and it still hits. The devil's always in the details. And for me, I love the continuity of this album, this singing that we have. You know, that you have laced throughout this. And obviously, it's a hugely conceptual album. You can play it one way or you can play it in reverse. And it's meant to be like that. And it's meant to be within that sort of timeless loop. But some of these lines, let's talk about.
It was always me versus the world.
You hear just that little scratching off to the side like a vinyl. Like when you put that needle on a vinyl and that's just right there.
Until I
Just cutting underneath.
found it's me versus me.
It was always me versus the world until I found it's me versus me. I mean, what a statement. So many of us go into it taking on the world, taking on the system. But really the biggest battle, if you want to see change in the world, you have to change yourself first. You know, you have to accept who you are. And sometimes we tend to project outwardly and to blame and to point the finger, when really the only person we need to blame and to point the finger at first is ourselves. We have to fix ourselves. Depth, man. A little bit of bass stabbing underneath now.
Just remember, what happens on Earth stays on Earth.
Funny thing about that, Kendrick almost named this album What Happened on Earth Stays on Earth. But obviously it was a little bit too long. I'm glad he went with damn in the end, but simple statement. But for me, again, profound, right? Because you can't take these material things with you. What happens on Earth, we only get one life, so take advantage of it on this earth. But also, you don't have to carry that baggage spiritually into what's next. You know, there's comfort in that statement at the same time, as well as a wake-up call.
Just remember, what happens on Earth stays on Earth.
And that classic sort of like shouting reminds me of like the classic mixtape days when you got a DJ to host your mixtape, right? And the DJs would shout over top of it. You kind of get that here. It's got a little bit of just that raw old school feel to it.
We're gonna put it in reverse.
And there's your teaser. We're going to put it in reverse. Because reverse comes in later at the end of this track, but also put this album in reverse. You know, there's breadcrumbs. There's little Easter eggs left throughout this, man. Very cleverly done conceptually.
Darling, I told you many times, and now I'm telling you once again, just to remind you, sweetheart, that my...
Man.
Oh, Lamar, hell.
The misdirections are crazy. I think we're over here, then we go over here, then we go over here. Then you get the Ted Taylor sample. It's like, okay, all right, this is the box we're in now.
Darling, I told you many times,
Be ever wonderful.
and now I'm telling you once again, just to remind you, sweetheart, that...
And I love how before he finishes the lineup coming,
Oh, Lamar.
then it just cuts. He still integrates part of the sample into the production. You know, that singing. You hear the harmony in the mix itself. But I love how all of a sudden the percussion kicks in, right? The bass starts knocking. It just starts running in a different direction. It's a cool, really dope, seamless transition where you still have a part of what you were sampling, but it becomes something new. It becomes a total sort of change up and switch up in terms of feel and vibe and everything. But also it still connects at the same time. Like this album.
Just to remind you, sweetheart, that my...
Oh, Lamar. Hail Mary, your marijuana times is hard. Pray with the hooligan, shadows all in the dark. Fellowship with demons and relatives, I'm a star. Life is one funny motherfucker. A true comedian, you gotta love him. You gotta trust him. I might be bugging. Infomercials and no sleep. Introverted by my thoughts. Children listen, it gets deep. See, once upon a time inside the Nicholson Garden Projects, the object was to process and digest poverty's dialect. Adaptation inevitable. Gun violence, crack spot, federal policies, rape builders and drug professionals. Anthony was the oldest of 7. Well respected, calm and collected. Laughing and joking made life easy.
I feel like I'm reading a book when I'm listening to verses like this from Kendrick Lamar. Some of the word choice, man, and just the alliteration. the way he sets up his rhyme schemes, the way that he taps in. Let's break a little bit of this down before it gets too far ahead of us.
Telling you once again, just to remind you, sweetheart, that my
Oh, Lamar, Hail Mary, your marijuana times is hard.
Hail Mary, your marijuana times it's hard. Oh, Lamar. I just love that very just like punchy pepper delivery, man. But right here, Hail Mary, me against the world. Tupac, right? Against all odds, it feels like. And Kendrick talked about many times now, Tupac came to him in a dream, and he feels like he has to carry the torch of the West. And he's like that resurrection, that second coming of Pac. So why not shout out a classic Tupac song, Hail Mary, but also the religious vibes. We talk about many religious references with Kendrick. Hail Mary in that sense as well.
Pray with the hooligan, shadows all in the dark. Fellowship with demons and times is hard. Pray with the hooligan, shadows all in the dark.
Pray with the hooligan, shadows in the dark. Saying prayers, but also I take it as shadows in the dark. Why? Because they're praying, right? There's predators out here. Be careful in these streets.
Fellowship with demons and relatives, I'm a star. Pray with the hooligan, shadows all in the dark. Fellowship with demons and relatives, I'm a star.
Fellowship with demons. I just love the way that he sets that up, because like a fellowship, a church fellowship should be like with saints, with Christians. Shouldn't be a fellowship with demons. Just the way that he has, you know, that sort of contradiction, that paradox of a line.
Pray with the hooligan, shadows all in the dark. Fellowship with demons and relatives, I'm a star.
And relatives, I'm a star. Shout out to the Bloods, right?
Life is one funny motherfucker. A true comedian, you gotta love him. You gotta.
Life is a funny, you know, it's said ironically, life is a funny mother effer. A true comedian, you gotta love him. It's almost like, yeah, life is gonna knock you, life is gonna laugh at you. I love just like the way, the nonchalant, devil may care way that he presents that line.
Life is
Just flipping a popular idiom on its head and interpreting it literally and having just that dual layer to
one
it.
funny motherfucker. A true comedian, you gotta love him. You gotta trust him. I might be bugging. Infomercials and no sleep. Introverted by my thoughts. Should you listen?
Infomercials and no sleep. Introverted by my thoughts. I just love that infomercials. Introverted. Like he takes that INT sound and he uses that to start both bars. But for me, man, it's like a flashback bar, because I used to need like that white noise to help me fall asleep. I remember like moms trying to adjust the rabbit ears of the satellite TV. And then the only thing you get late night is late night infomercials. So you have that on. It's kind of that white noise, and just like watching infomercials as a kid to fall asleep. Like the insomnia
You
of
gotta
it.
trust him. I might
Just a simple line, but very illustrative from Kendrick, and just like put you right there in that spot and in that
be
zone.
bugging. Infomercials and no sleep. Introverted by my thoughts. Should you listen, it gets deep. See, once upon a time inside the Nicholson Garden projects, the object was to process and digest poverty's dialect. Adaptation.
To digest poverty's dialect, that's a hell of a line right there. Like, what is the dialect of poverty? What is the word spoken by those who don't have anything, right?
Nicholson Garden projects, the object was to process and digest poverty's dialect. Adaptation inevitable. Gun violence, crack spot, federal policies, rape builders and drug professionals.
Adaptation inevitable. It's like Darwin, survival of the fittest. You have to adapt. It's inevitable in order to deal with poverty's dialect, right? And then he just goes on to describe these different illustrative uses, these illustrative words for where he's from, to put you right there in my spot, the poverty that I witnessed.
Inevitable. Gun violence, crack spot, federal policies.
Gun violence, crack spot, federal. Things could go federal around here.
Rape builders and drug professionals. Anthony was the oldest of 7, well respected, calm and collected. Laughing and joking made life easier. Hard times, mama on crack. A 4-year-old telling his nanny he needed her. His family history pimping and banking. He was meant to be dangerous. Clacked him a grip and start slanking. 15 scraping up his jeans with quarter pieces. Even got some hair from a smoker last weekend. Dodger policeman working for his big homie. Small time hustler graduated to a brick on him. $10,000 out of for project housing. That's on the daily. Seen his first meal, 20 years old. Had a couple of babies. Had a couple of shooters. Caught a murder case. Fingerprints on the gun, they assuming, but witnesses couldn't prove it. That was back when he turned his back and they killed his cousin. He beat the case and went back to hustling. Bird shuffling. Anthony rang. The first in the projects with.
It's a hell of a line for me, because you beat a murder case. You feel like you have a new lease on life almost. It's like you're a free man once again. What do? You go right back to the streets, right back to hustling, because he's speaking poverty's dialect. That's the language that he knows. And again, the illustrative techniques of Kendrick as he describes, you know, Anthony Top Dog Tiffith and his story and his rise up, because this is what happened. You know, this is the creation of TDE. You know, TDE has roots in drug slinging and, survive in the streets because he took that money and he invested it in TDE. But we get there. We're jumping ahead.
15 scraping up his jeans with quarter pieces. Even
Quarter pieces, obviously flipping quarter pieces of coke. Come on.
nanny, he needed her. His family history, pimping and banking. He was meant to be dangerous. Clacked him a grip.
He was meant to be dangerous. Because you talk about hurt people, hurt others. And I know I'm getting later on down the line with Miss Morale and the Big Steppers, but for Kendrick, there's a lot of this sort of like the cycle continues, rinse and repeat. If violence is what surrounds these kids and this is what raises them, how do you think they're going to become? They have to survive at the end of the day. If drugs are surrounded by them and gangs, where do you think they're going? He was meant to be dangerous because that's where he's from, right? You don't normally say that about kids unless you're in the streets, unless you're in situations like that, right? A kid from the middle class, you're not going to say, oh yeah, he's meant to be dangerous. Simple line, but deeper when you think about it.
His family history, pimping and banking. He was meant to be dangerous. Clacked him a grip and start slanging. 15 scraping up his jeans with quarter pieces. Even got some hair from a smoker last weekend.
Got head from a smoker last weekend. Now he's getting head from the addicts, maybe in return instead of paying money.
15 scraping up his jeans with quarter pieces. Even got some hair from a smoker last weekend. Dodger policeman working for his big homie. Small time hustler graduated to a brick on him. $10,000 out of.
Now he graduates to a brick, right? Simple statement, because he had quarter pieces at first, and now that he's earning more, now he's flipping bricks.
Working for his big homie. Small time hustler graduated to a brick on him. $10,000 out of.
You go from grams to kilos, essentially, right? You're stepping up. You're climbing through the ranks.
For his big homie, small time hustler graduated to a brick on him. $10,000 out of for project housing. That's on the daily. Seen his first meal, 20 years old. Had a couple of babies. Had a couple of shooters. Caught a murder case.
I love how the beat cuts out, right? Beat cuts out, but Kendrick stays with that tempo and with that pace. And then this total beat switch and this change up. But it's such a seamless transition. Yet again, the constant production shifts and changes. It's like we've been through like 4 or 5 completely different musical dynamics and sounds at this point, but it all merges into one so seamlessly.
First meal, 20 years old, had a couple of babies, had a couple of shooters, caught a murder case. Fingerprints on the gun, they assuming, but witnesses couldn't prove it. That was back when he turned his back and they killed his cousin. He beat the case and went back to hustling, bird shuffling.
They killed his cousin too. You figure again, that could be like a wake-up call. Like your cousin gets killed. But again, when you have no other options and choices, you have to go back to that lifestyle.
He turned his back and they killed his cousin. He beat the case and went back to hustling. Bird shuffling. Anthony rang the first in.
Bird shuffling, back to dealing. Bird, cocaine, chicken, coke, tying in with more drug slang language.
He beat the case and went back to hustling. Bird shuffling. Anthony rang the first in the projects with the 2-tone Mustang. That 5.0 thing. They say 5-0 came circling parking lots and parking spots and hopping out while harassing the corner blocks. Crooked cops told Anthony he should kick it. He brushed him off and walked back to the Kentucky Fried Chicken. See, at this chicken spot there was a light-skinned nigga that talked a lot with a curly top and a gap in his teeth. He worked the window, his name was Ducky. He came from the streets, the Robert Taylor home, Southside Project, Chirac, the Terror Dome, drove to California.
Kendrick's parents being from Chirac, shout out to Chicago. You know what I love? Another seamless beat switch. And it's almost like, remember how I talked about like the DJ announcing things at the beginning and classic mixtape days? This feels like, you keep skipping tracks, like on the radio. You listen for a little bit, you got ADD, then you switch to the next one. Even though Kendrick's story doesn't change and his flow doesn't change, everything else is changing around him seamlessly, right? It's almost like a mixtape, chopping in between.
With a woman on him and $500. They had a son hoping that he see college. Hustling on the side with a 9-to-5. Freak it. Cadillac severely ride his son around on weekends. 3-piece special with his name on his shirt pocket. Cross the street from the projects, Anthony planned to rob it. Stuck up the place before, back in 84. That's when affiliation was really 8 years of war. So many relatives telling us, selling us, devilish work, scaling us, crime, intelligence, felonies, prevalent proposition with nines. Ducky was
that flow's crazy.
Well, they robbed the manager and shot a customer last year. He figured he'd get on these niggas' good sides. Free chicken every time Anthony posted in line. 2 extra biscuits, Anthony liked them and then let them slide. They didn't kill him, in fact it looked like they're the last to survive. Pay attention, that one decision changed both of their lives. One curse at a time, reverse to manifest a good karma and not tell you why. You take 2 strangers.
That foreshadowing right there is dope.
One curse at a time, reverse to manifest a good karma, and I tell you why. You take two strangers and put them in random predicaments. Give them a soul so they can make their own choices and live with it. 20 years later, them same strangers you make them meet again inside recording studios where they reaping their benefits. Then you start reminding them about that chicken incident. Whoever thought the greatest rapper would be from coincidence? Because if Anthony killed Ducky, Top Dog could be serving life while I grow up without a father and die in a gunfight.
And then you hear it all start playing in reverse. But we got to bring it back and break this down, man. Just like the storytelling, I've talked about this often of Kendrick. The way that he's so illustrative. He really puts you in these situations and you can picture it. Like he's painting pictures, man. Like he's a Black Van Gogh. He really is to me. But he takes it further because he's also a great author at the same time. Because he knows how to foreshadow. He knows how to build. He knows how to have a plot twist. And he knows how to conclude it and bring things around full circle. And this is exactly what he does here, telling a story of two different lives and how they eventually merge. But that's not the conclusion of it. The conclusion is how it affects ultimately him and leads to his purpose of being here and creating tracks like this. All right, let's break it down.
He should kick it. He brushed him off and walked back to the Kentucky Fried Chicken. Block. They say 5-0 came, circling parking lots and parking spots and hopping. That bird shuffling. Anthony rang. The first in the projects with the two-tone Mustang. That 5.0 thing. They say 5-0 came, circling.
I love that. Just that 5.0 thing, that 5.0 Mustang versus 5-0 as in the police came around. Just again, a simple illustrative line and then nice little wordsmithing and flipping on the 5-0.
Parking lots and parking spots and hopping out while harassing the corner blocks. Crooked cops told Anthony he should kick it. He brushed him off and walked back to the Kentucky Fried Chicken. See at this.
Love that. Like, it's an interesting dynamic because there's complexity there. Like, and if you think about character development, because it's kind of wild, I'm talking about it from a fiction standpoint, but it's a real life standpoint. But for me, that's an interesting point that Kendrick wanted to make, right? Because you sat there and you look at Anthony slinging drugs and doing what he has to do to survive. But then you start making him more human, more relatable to the common listener. He loses his cousin. And then all of a sudden you have a situation where crooked cops approach him. Well, instead of playing the game with the crooked cops, which you figure, hey, if he's trying to survive, he should do something like that. He says no to them. He turns them down, showing that seemingly where it's like he doesn't have a code. No, he still has a code. He still has a set of morals that he goes by. And that's just the richness and the complexity of the human condition to me. And obviously, as a writer, when you're choosing what to highlight, he could tell any points of Anthony's story to get where he's getting to. But he wanted to highlight that. He wanted to show that and add to that complexity as the story builds, as it develops further.
Cops told Anthony he should kick it.
You know, he's thinking like almost from an author standpoint with how he illustrates these things.
Spots and hopping out while harassing the corner blocks. Crooked cops told Anthony he should kick it. He brushed him off and walked back to the Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Hear that beat switch again? Is
He
nasty.
had this chicken spot that was a light-skinned nigga that talked a lot with a curly top and a gap in his teeth. He worked the
Curly top, gap in his teeth. There you go. You picture it right away. Kendrick's dad.
window. His name was Ducky. He came from the streets. The Robert Taylor home, Southside Project, Chirac, the Terror Dome, drove to California.
The Terror Dome, man. Chicago.
The Robert Taylor home, Southside Project, Chirac, the Terror Dome, drove to California with a woman on him and $500. They had a son hoping that he see college, hustling on the side with a 9-to-5 to freak it. Cadillac severely ride his son around on weekends. 3-piece special.
And Kendrick talked about this. Kendrick talked about how, you know, his dad was a part of GD Gangster's Disciples in Chicago, and his mom gave him an ultimatum to get away from that gang life. And then they moved out west, and they ended up in Compton, right? And then mom got a job at McDonald's, dad got a job at KFC, and they were hustling, trying to provide a better life for Kendrick. And he was born ultimately in Compton. But that's why you also find Chicago influences within his music and Chicago shout outs and connections too.
They had a son hoping that he see college, hustling on the side with a 9-to-5 to freak it. Cadillac severely ride his son around on weekends. 3-piece special with his name on his shirt pocket. Cross the
3-piece special with his name on the shirt pocket. Why? Because he's working at KFC. So he's got his name on the shirt pocket. Just love that simple line. 3-piece special from KFC.
Really ride his son around on weekends. 3-piece special with his name on his shirt pocket. Cross the street from the projects. Anthony planned to rob it. Stuck up the place before back in 84. That's when affiliation was really 8 years of war. So many relatives.
Affiliation was really gears of war. You know, the gears, the machinations of war as it turns and turns around. I love the way that Kendrick just chooses those words to describe the projects and what's going on by that KFC at the time.
Back in 84, that's when affiliation was really 8 years of war. So many relatives telling us, selling us, devilish work, scaling us.
Relatives telling us, selling us, devilish. Just right there, super condensing the rhyme schemes, a little bit of a faster flow, but also it's a very stop-start flow. Telling us, relatives. Hear that huge marinated pause, like kind of in between every single line and delivery. Nice little chopped up switch, man. Almost like he's taking his own voice and chopping it like this beat keeps getting chopped.
Crime, intelligent, villainous, prevalent proposition with nons.
Intelligent, perilous proposition. The alliteration, man. Word of the day happening so many times.
Villainous, devilish work, scaling us. Crime, intelligent, villain.
Listen, to be a true lyrical MC, you can't be dumb. It's not a dumb man's game, right? You have to be very intelligent to operate as an MC at a high level. You do.
So many relatives telling us, selling us, devilish work, scaling us. Crime, intelligent, villainous, prevalent proposition with nons. Ducky was well aware. They robbed the manager and shot a customer last year. He figured he'd get on these niggas' good sides. Free chicken every time Anthony posted in line. 2 extra biscuits. Anthony liked them and then let them slide. They didn't.
I like the parallels, right? Because he describes Anthony and Anthony hustling. And he even robbed the joint before. But also, if you think about it, the parallel writing, because his dad's a hustler too. His dad's also speaking the dialect of poverty. Because his dad is hustling, giving away free biscuits, free chicken. Knowing that he's going to protect himself. That he's also going to survive. So he's showing his hustle and his street smarts in a different sense.
Every time Anthony.
And it ultimately pays off because it saves Anthony in the end. It saves Kendrick in the end. It saves Kendrick's father in the
Posted
end.
in line, 2 extra biscuits. Anthony liked them and then let them slide. They didn't kill him. In fact, it looked like they're the last to survive. Pay attention. That one decision changed both of their lives. One curse at a time. Reverse the manifest.
I love right here.
Biscuits. Anthony liked them and then let them slide. They didn't
Let him slide. So that I sound is the end rhyme.
kill him. In fact, it looked like
Kill him, right? And then that's more of the internal rhyme.
they're the last to survive. Pay
Survive. Back to the external.
attention. That one decision changed both
Pay attention. That one decision. Again, the end sounds. That's the internals.
for their lives. One curse.
Lives, and then he goes back to the external. So even while he's storytelling and setting up like the big sort of moral of the story and conclusion here, he's got really nice internal, external rhyme writing
In
too.
fact, it looked like they're the last to survive. Pay attention. That one decision changed both of their lives. One curse at a time. Reverse the manifest the good karma and not tell you why. You take 2
One curse at a time, but reverse the good karma, and I'll tell you why. I love
their
that.
lives.
Again, just the whole teaser of this album. Play this album in reverse. Like, not only does it suit the purpose of his storytelling for this specific track, and go back, now rewind this track to see how we started and how we ended, but also it suits the purpose for the whole album. Like, just the layered and the depth to this writing.
One curse at a time, reverse the manifest the good karma and not tell you why. You take 2 strangers and put them in random predicaments. Give them a soul so they can make their own choices and live with it.
Give him a soul, but we all have souls. I just love the way he sets that up. It's almost like we're playing
Just
God.
and put them in random predicaments. Give them a soul so they can make their own choices and live with it. 20 years later, them same strangers you make them meet again inside recording studios where they reaping their benefits. Then you start reminding them about that chicken incident. Whoever thought the greatest rapper would be from coincidence? Because if Anthony killed Ducky, Top Dog could be serving life while I grow up without a father and die in a gunfight.
And die in a gunfight. Why is that important? Because Kendrick painted these pictures of violence in the beginning. And he painted these pictures of violence that Anthony had to go through. But that could have been Kendrick's path. And what is he saying here? Without the guidance of my father, who helped me go down this path of an MC, I could have chosen a very different path. And it's funny how, there's self-determination, but then there's fate at the same time. How the decisions of 2 seemingly strangers ultimately would bring them connected in the end. But not only benefit them, would benefit a new life that they couldn't even see at the time. How it would benefit. True sort of butterfly effect, man.
An incident. Whoever thought the greatest rapper would be from coincidence? Because if Anthony killed Ducky, Top Dog could be serving life while I grow up without a father and die in a gunfight.
I love how he doesn't even finish saying gunfight and then the gunshot happens. Because it gets cut short. Get it? Like his life would have been.
Now for that the world.
So I was taking a walk the other day.
Man. It is crazy how everything goes in reverse. And ultimately you hear as we go in reverse through the album, then you hear DNA happen. You hear the reverse of DNA and then they play it forward. So you can truly clock what that, because it's like, hang on, I feel like I heard this song. I heard this sample. That's track 2 on the album. And also, DNA's an interesting choice because, well, he's telling a story about his father and his DNA connection too.
So I was taking a walk the other day.
And then I was taking a walk the other day. Well, that's how we start the album, right? That's Blood. That's the first track on the album. So we end the album like we just did with the Tyler, the Creator album, actually, in that breakdown. We end the album the same way that we're starting the album and making it a cycle. But in this case, it's a different type of cycle, right? It's not go back to the beginning and play it through. It's take this, play it from this side now, go backwards. Damn. I'll tell you what, man, like you just talk about higher level lyricism in terms of putting together a concept, higher level production, devil in the details with the constant switch ups, but just being able to, one, tell the story, and I highlighted how great that story is told and the payoff in the end and the plot twist and the way he sets that up and brings it around. But then 2, not only having that story sit for the song itself, but then sit for the whole meta concept of an entire album and connecting an entire body of work, the thought that takes. And then you have to have the skill and the talent to pull it off. And this is why Kendrick Lamar is one of the greatest of all time. Kendrick Lamar, you are Knox Hill certified. Hope you guys liked today's video. Listen, if you're here at the end, obviously enjoying the content, do me a huge favor, support the channel directly. Subscribe, notifications on, really does go a long way. Also, don't forget to copy merch, knoxhilldmv.com. We got hats, we got shirts, we got hoodies, everything you need. If you want to rep the brand, if you want to support, it all helps, it all goes a long way. I'll put all links down there. All right, everyone, stay safe, stay positive, take care of these, take care of these. I'll catch you again.
You know I'm going now with a bang. Bang. Tell him leave the bag in a bang. Bang. You should check the tags where we hang. Hang. You know I'm going now with a bang. Know I'm going now with a bang. Bang. Tell him leave the bag in a bang. Bang.